1 second. 1 second is all the time we get these days to look at a cross-sectional image. I started radiology almost exactly 20 years ago, and at that time, life was pretty easy. A light box and printed images. A chest CT would typically be 4 pages, 2 axials with the astinal setting and 2 axials lung window setting. Rapidly, immediately after I started my residency, things started to change, and there was a complete transformation of technology and workflow. And at the end of my residency, the light boxes in the department, they were still on the wall, but we would use them to hang up Christmas and birthday cards and notes, all these papers, and we were all working on very fancy PACS workstations. A very efficient workflow, an increased productivity, a higher diagnostic confidence, and more precision than ever before. Sometimes when I tell my residents how we used to measure lesions at that time, they look at me like I'm a dinosaur, because we used to use a piece of paper to order a pencil and measure a tumor. And now we're discussing about small percentages in variability on volumetric measurements. With the PACS, we also had a huge archive, a treasure box of all these previous images to compare, all leading to better patient care. An increased efficiency, you would think it would mean an increase in time. And maybe in the beginning it was, but having a lot of time, I don't know for you, but for me, that is absolutely not the feeling I have right now. I think we're all facing a lot of challenges. With still 20 years ahead in my career, I consider myself as part of the next generation radiologist and next generation radiology. And in that regard, it's an honor and a pleasure to talk to you today about what keeps me awake at night and what I will think will be one of the biggest challenges for the future: advancing radiology in times of dwindling resources and increasing demands. With the advantage in technology and the increased computing power and software advances, we saw a complete reshape of cross-sectional imaging. We have these volumetric data sets to do post-processing, look at the images in all the different planes, and the technology is there, so everybody also expects that we look at all these different planes. And we don't only do anatomical imaging these days, but we do functional and molecular imaging all on top of the work that was already there. All these technologies, they come with huge benefits, but they also come at a cost. There's a steady increase in the number of images per study, and it's on the rise, and it will be keeping on the rise forever, meaning that now we only have less than a second to look at a cross-sectional image. It's not only the number of images per study that is on the rise, but we're doing more and more examinations, with an increase of more than 5% per year, mainly in the fields of CT and MRI. And if you look for the on-call workload between 2006 and 2020, it did not double, it didn't triple, but it quadrupled over 14 years of time, mainly related to CT. This increase doesn't only impact us as radiologists, but it has an impact on the whole department, on your radiographers, on your administration. And the trend that we see in workload, in emergency, we also see that in oncological imaging. And what do we expect for the future? The trend will continue. Our population is growing and aging, and more people are living with a health condition. We also see that there's involvement in treatments, which is great news for our patients, because diseases that would have been fatal in the past are now becoming chronic diseases. But it also means that these patients are coming back and back and back again to have repeated imaging examinations. And I don't know what is the case in your hospital, but in my hospital, I always have the feeling that the other clinicians, they don't use their hands and their ears anymore. Their stethoscope is like Grey's Anatomy style on their neck, and what they do is they just order another CT examination. There's something wrong, we don't know, let's do another CT. And then there's the evolutions in our own field. But we're working together as a radiologist with all these fields in medicine, and they have their own evolution, often with an impact on imaging. And so we need to follow these evolutions to be part of the diagnostic process. And then there's our role. When we think of our workload, we always think on the reading and reporting and doing the interventions in our departments. The impact of the increased data on this role is huge, but that's not our only task as a radiologist. We're the most important person, I think, and it's maybe, that's not humble, but I think we're the most important person in the multidisciplinary boards, where we as a radiologist need to be very active and have our own voice. I always tell my residents, you're not in the multidisciplinary board to show the images. You're there to be part of the diagnosis and have the same vote as all the other clinicians. We also have a role in patient safety, in communicating with our colleagues and with our patients, and we're at the center of innovation and research. And last but not least, and that is a topic that is dear to my heart, education. We're there to educate the future of our profession. The medical students that come into our department, your residents, we need to train them for the future of our profession. We cannot ignore it. The increased workload and the increased complexity, it comes with a price. There are consequences of all this happening. First of all, when time is short, we try to focus more on what we consider as our core business, the reporting. That is also often where the biggest pressure is, because the clinicians, they're waiting for the report, there are these KPIs, there's turnaround times, so the report needs to be there. But at the same time, there's the other specialties, and what they want is they want radiology in their hands. And with all the evolution in artificial intelligence, they even believe more that it's easier to get it in their hands. So while we are focusing and struggling with our time and focusing on reporting, we should absolutely not forget to also invest in all our other roles, because that will be the roles to shape the future for our profession. Another consequence is that this increased workload impacts quality and safety of patient care. It's a pity, but it is reality. And the etiology of errors in radiology is very complex and is much more than work overload. But research has shown that decision speed, decision accuracy, and the mental impact of work overload is correlated with diagnostic errors. All this comes at a consequence, and we see a rise of burnout in the global healthcare sector, but also in our profession, in radiologists and in radiographers. And this is a study from a couple of years ago where they looked at more than 5,000 actively practicing physicians. They looked at the mental demand of our job, the time demand of our job, how rushed we would be in a day, and what the workload would impact would be on your work. And what you see is that regarding the mental demand, radiology is the top one. And also for time demand and effort required, we're in the 75% quartile. What they also saw is that there is a strong association with this physician task load and the risk of burnout. Burnout is not the only reason for our dwindling resources. Our European healthcare workers are aging. This is a concern in all member states, but particularly in those member states where there is a high percentage of people over the age of 55 years. Why is this a concern? Because when they retire, we will need to replace them. And probably we will need to replace one person by more than one person. And the people, they are not there. Everything that is happening now does not come as a surprise. The WHO already forecasted in 2016 the shortfall in healthcare professionals. What nobody could foresee is what happened in March 2020. A lot of people were leaving the healthcare sector. And you can see at this curve that we have somewhat recovered, but not completely. And possibly we will never ever recover and reach the same levels as we had before. So the balance between increasing demands and dwindling resources, the mismatch is getting bigger and bigger, and the challenges are getting also more problematic. So what is the solution to this problem? Artificial intelligence. That is what people tend to make me believe. Artificial intelligence will solve this problem. And these are quotes. It will liberate us to do more stimulating or challenging jobs. It will free us from day-to-day drudgery. And it will enable radiologists to reinvest liberated time. Does AI really is the solution to all our problems? Does AI really respond to our needs? And does AI will really give us the time we're desperately looking for? AI is there in the whole pathway, from even ordering till at the very end where your patient leaves the department. But if you look at the algorithms are there, they're mainly focused on the value for patient care. Or at least we believe patient care, because a lot of algorithms, we don't even know what the impact is on the outcome of healthcare. We always tend that it is correct that if we find something early or small that we would not have seen without an algorithm, that it has an impact, but often it is not proven. We're so much focusing on making healthcare better, which is great and which we need, but I think we sometimes forget that we need to focus on making healthcare affordable and cheaper, because otherwise we will have very good healthcare that is not accessible to many patients. And it's great, there are some algorithms out there that have an answer to the increasing demands. Algorithms that boost your sequences so that you can have a shorter time frame needed to do the examination. But they don't come in a package, like we do more MR examinations in this time. They don't come with a package that also adds to the reporting. So at the end, there's more to report in the same amount of time with the same number of people. There's some research looking into algorithms that are being developed and algorithms that are there. And they looked at to what extent these algorithms you would need increase your workload, these algorithms, decrease your workload, or actively give us time. The majority of the algorithms that will increase your workload in the future and will not decrease the time that we're desperately looking for. The time we need and the solutions for our shortage of staff. I don't want to be negative about AI, and we need to embrace AI, and AI is the future of our profession and will reshape our profession. The best is yet to come, and it's not because these algorithms are not there yet that we will not have them in the future. So I'm convinced that there will be algorithms out there that will create time. I am. But we're radiologists. Innovation is in our DNA. There are all these emergent technologies. We're working to personalized medicine. Things will always get complexer and complexer. And the things that are complex now will become routine one day, but there will be other complexities. It's a vicious circle, so I'm convinced that we will always have these challenges. So focusing only on technology, I think we need more. And I think we also need to focus on people. What we want more than ever before is to keep our people in our organization. And not just keeping them in our organization, we want them to be energetic, resilient, and motivated. Sounds easy, but I don't know for you, but for me, that's not always the case. But that is what we strive to do, energetic and resilient, motivated people. When you talk about retention, you talk about well-being, and well-being equals gain. Gain not only on the level of your organization, but also on the level of your team leader, and most importantly, on the level of your employer. And gain goes beyond the economical one. The numbers are not a goal, but the numbers will be a consequence. Well-being is not a new topic. Well-being has always been there. But how we look at well-being, the well-being of today, is different than the well-being of yesterday and different than the one of tomorrow. The vision on well-being started to change about 15 years ago when they saw that there was scientific evidence that there was a correlation between well-being of medical staff and patient care. So when I started radiology, we had a completely different look on well-being, and as medical doctors, we were seen like DT-like, that we would have DT-like qualities, then shifting to being superheroes. And now, thank God, we just can be human. Also, on the level of an institutional level, that changed. The focus in the beginning was very on the institutional needs. Then they shifted to the needs of the patients, and now they shift to the needs of all the people in the hospital, not just patients, but everybody that is there. So when you talk about well-being, there's different models out there, not always that easy, but I want to share one that is one that I like because it's simple and easy to understand. It's a model with 7 pillars, and while I will be discussing them, I'll encourage you to consider for yourself what do you find important, what are you doing good in your organization, or what you are doing good, and where do you think there is some room for improvement. So finding the right job is so much more than doing tasks. It's aligning your own personal values with the values of the culture and the values of your organization. Your values, they're your inner compass that drive your behavior every day. And for me personally, my core values are integrity and respect. If you do a job that aligns your values, you will have much more fulfillment in your job. Having autonomy, having control over what you do, having a job that you can focus on and have full control, it makes that what you do really matters. Belonging is being part of a team, being part of a family at radiology, sharing goals and caring for each other. And when I was preparing this talk, this is how I looked onto belonging, like just on a departmental level. But 2 days ago, I ran into a colleague at the 3rd floor. He's not a radiologist, he was a pulmonologist invited to this meeting. So what do you ask if you see a colleague from another discipline? What do you think of ECR? Because I think ECR is special. And he said, well, it's great and it's different than all other meetings. You have a nice team and you have it's visually, it's really nice. That was the answer that I expected. But then there was an answer that I did not expect. Literally, here were his words. He said, it's like you're all one family. I think that's the biggest compliment we can get, because he didn't only saw what ECR was, but he felt what ECR was. So, Going from autonomy to belonging to competences. If you have the skills and the tools to do your job, it will give you confidence and it will make you grow. These three, the ABC of work happiness, they are the three ingredients to love your job and to love your work. We don't hire people for the job of today. Skills and knowledge is important, but what we want is we want colleagues to tackle the challenges of tomorrow. And as a medical doctor, what we learned is for the future, is for our life. But more than ever, lifelong learning will also be important for the future. Why are you here today? Probably to connect with a lot of people, but also to learn and to see new things, because as a person, that's what we do. We love to grow. And then the fourth pillar, a workplace. And I think as being always in the dark, what we often want is a place with daylight, but the ideal workplace is much more than just a room and the seat you're sitting on. An ideal workplace is an environment where your colleagues respect your preferences. If someone is wearing a headphone, that's not because that person don't want to connect to you, but it's because that person just wants to focus on what he or she is doing. It's a place where you limit multitasking, and as women we always think we can multitask and men cannot. Nobody can multitask. We only can focus on one thing, and switching from one topic to another is not efficient. It's also a place where you can have some brain rest. And then a healthy lifestyle is something that is important, not at work, not only at work, also at home. It's also something that doesn't end or start at home or at work, but also your working environment has an influence on this healthy lifestyle and should actively support this. And then social contacts. We are social creatures. These human connections and interactions, they're the groundwork for collaboration, innovation, and resilience. And I think we all have the experience that working with people is sometimes like navigating a minefield, but on the other hand, it are also gold mines, because we are social, we're human. We're not technologists, we're not a robot. And then last but not least, leadership. Choose your leaders based on social capital and EQ rather than only IQ. And for me, leadership is about aligning people, motivating, inspiring, lifting them. And I see maybe some of you are thinking, well, leadership, it's for the higher echelons, it's not for me. Leadership is for all of us. There is a leader in all of us. Leadership is also not something that is there. Leadership is something that you can learn. And it doesn't need to be big actions or fancy words. Just saying to a colleague, well, I really admired how you calmed down that anxious patient. I'm going to try the next time to do that yourself. It can be just small actions that make a big difference. When we talk at well-being today, what has become extremely important is a hybrid workplace, home reporting. It adds to the fourth pillar. It increases efficiency, productivity, flexibility, comfort of being at home, being able to focus. But on the other hand, we need to realize that it is also a threat for the sixth pillar, our human connections. We need to make sure that we can be remote, but not be distant. We need to balance between remote and on-site, because unseen will become forgotten, and we need to keep the connection with our colleagues, but also with our patients, and we need to make sure that we will still be the key partner in patient care. Visibility is not only important for retention, but also for recruitment. And unfortunately, the time is too short to discuss this topic. But what I think there is also the issue is that for our profession, radiologists, but also radiographers, that unknown is unloved. And with all these changing technologies, sometimes the human aspect is just diminishing and decreasing. We absolutely need to make sure that we make the human aspect more visible again. Coping with all these challenges for the future, it is a challenge on itself. So how do I cope with all these challenges? There's a number of things I do, but I want to share 3 of them with you. One day a week, one evening a week, not a day, I wish, but one evening a week, I'm not busy with radiology. What I do is I do pottery, and I try to make these perfect round bowls. It's also practical because my hands are dirty, so I cannot quickly check my email while I'm doing that. The reason I'm telling you about my hobby is not because you would know, but because what I really like is how the Japanese look at pottery. When we break something, we go online, go to Amazon, and we order something new. That's reality. What the Japanese do is when they break pottery, they don't throw it away, but they repair it with gold powder. And that is what they called kintsugi. And the philosophy behind it is to embrace and celebrate imperfections rather than hiding them. Kintsugi emphasizes the beauty that can emerge from repair and recovery rather than erasing the history of damage and of the past. The second thing is I try to have a growth mindset, meaning that the belief is that intelligence can be developed. To embrace challenges, persist in the face of setback, and see effort as the path to mastery, and criticism, which is really hard, but try to learn from criticism. Because if you try to have a growth mindset, it will foster resilience, mitigate burnout, and nurture lifelong learning, and you will reach higher levels of achievement. And last but not least, optimism. I am a very optimistic person, and I like how the leadership guru Simon Sinek looks at optimism. He says, optimism is the undying belief that the future is bright, but it is also realistic. The times we are in right now are hard and difficult, but if we work together and if we care for each other, we will get out of the dark tunnel. Working together is exactly what we do within ESR and at ECR. And while I read this text, I'll encourage you to find the underlying thread in what I will be telling you. As we navigate the ever-evolving cycle of life, let us continue building bridges and embracing innovation with a clear vision for radiology. Together, let's focus on the bigger picture, fostering a diverse and united community that paves the way for next-generation radiology. By working together, we can overcome the challenges that lie ahead, ensuring a radiology landscape that thrives and positively impacts healthcare for years to come. I hope some of you have recognized at least a number of the previous ECR teams, because all 7 of the previous 7 years are in there. And this is how I see the future. It's a combination of the knowledge of the past, modern technology, and most important, human creativity. I have no idea what the future will look like, and I have no idea what the next 20 years will bring. I don't have a miracle solution. I wish I had, but I don't. But I'm really convinced that with a growth mindset and optimism, if we invest in people, not just technology, that the future of next-generation radiology will still look bright. Thank you for being here today.
Fantastic, fantastic, Annemiek. I think I really appreciated this, and I think all of us did it. I think it was a perfect conclusion of the 3 plenary lectures, and you brought back the human aspect. Even though, if I can say, you were wearing a beautiful silver blouse, very similar to what Annemiek was wearing. Thank you.
Thank you.